All right, let's get started with the media card activity. So what is a media card and what is a component? So this media card is a component, and that's what we're going to be doing for this assignment, is building a component. This is very relevant to the web design and development field. In my regular job, I build components weekly. So this is, again, very relevant to what you are going to be doing if you're going to be pursuing this field. So a component is something that is typically used on a website or application or whatever more than once. So in this case, it's some sort of card. And so if you can imagine this card, it could be something that is repeated on the website. Maybe there's like 3 of them in a row, or they're just used in different places on the website. And so a component is you write the HTML and CSS once so that you can just use it wherever you need to on the site. So it's really great to create reusable code. So this is what we're going to be building. So here's our media card. We're going to review the mock-up. You'll notice it has several different sections. So we have the image, we have the paragraph, the buttons at the bottom, and then the timestamp. So we have all these sections to the media card, and you'll also notice there's a slight drop shadow around it. It looks a little bit different on your assignment because this is my screenshot. So just make sure you are taking a look at that mock-up, because that is what we're going to try to create. So let's get started. Okay, so in Glitch, you can click New File and then Add File. You'll want to name it card.html. Say add this file. Now I'm actually going to be doing this in my text editor. So I'm going to create the file over here and save it as card.html. So I'm doing the same assignment as you. I'm just doing it in my text editor. You are welcome to work in a text editor as well, but keep in mind I do need a link to grade. So eventually you will need to copy and paste it over into Glitch if you have chosen to work on your text editor. So now I'm also going to open my file over here. I had it ready, but I didn't have the file created yet. So now I just have this blank HTML file. Okay, so let's get started. So we reviewed the mockup. We're on step 1. And we created the file, named it card.html, and now it says remove anything that might be in the body element and add an article element and give it a class of card. Okay, so I first need to add some more HTML here. So I'm just going to, let's see, I'm just going to grab my About Me code. Copy that, paste it in here, and then I don't need the styles, so I'm going to get rid of that, give it a new title, we'll call it media card. Okay, and then now here's the body, and just like it said, we're getting rid of everything within the body. We're starting with a fresh new start. Okay, awesome. What's next? So now we're going to add the article element, and we're using article because that would be the semantic element for this, because this is an element that can be contained in and of itself. So if you're not sure about semantic elements, there's some great reading that you can do. You can just do a quick Google search and check out the W3 Schools article or other articles. There's other great articles. Okay, and now we're going to give that article, speaking of articles, a class of card. Okay. And now that is our body of the media component. That's our main parent element. So now we're going to add an image, and we're going to use a resource that is provided for us called Pixum. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull a random image of a specific size. So let's use that image source, and then always in alt, and we'll just say thumbnail image, because again it can just grab random images, so we don't really know we don't really know what the image is going to be, so that's just what we're going to name it. You are welcome to use your own image, but you do want to make sure it's the right size, 320 by 240 pixels. Okay, so now we have that, and then we're going to add a paragraph. So if you'll remember, the paragraph is a p tag, and let's see, that mockup had the text for us. I'm just going to use that text verbatim. You can use your own text if you want. We have, this is a wider card with supporting text below as a natural lead into additional content. This content is a little bit longer. So just some placeholder text. You're welcome to put whatever, but you know, just make sure it is a couple sentences and takes up about the same amount of space. Okay. Okay, so we added the paragraph, and now we want to add a footer. So again, let's review the mock-up. Where do I have it? So this is our footer section here. So footers can be used for more than just the footer section of a website, because again, this component also has a footer. So it's the footer element, and it needs to have two buttons in it. We'll give one a class of view button and the other a class of edit button. Okay, so there's my footer, and then nested inside my footer, I'm going to have a button, and then another button. And again, I need to add those classes. So we have our class view button and edit button, right? Yep. View button. Edit button. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the text in there too, because again, like if you look at the mockups, you can see it says view and edit, so I'm going to put that text in there. And save that. And now we're going to move on to step 2. Before we do that, let's review what we have so far. So we'll refresh this. You can see we have our random image, we have a paragraph, and then we have our 2 buttons. Alright, step 2, the base style. Well, did I miss? Sorry, I did miss a part. Okay, sorry, we're also adding a span. Okay, and that is going to hold the time, which again, let's check that out. We'll just add the 9 minutes like it says there. I guess I don't have to put it out. Anyway, okay, now we have it all. Let's check it out. See, new image now. It just grabs a new one every time, random. And we have all of the content that we need, and it's in the correct structure. So now let's get started with the base style. Step 2. So for our CSS, we're going to keep it simple. We're just going to add a style element in the head. So you guys are used to, for your projects that we're working on, linking the style sheet. For this one, we're just going to put the style in here. You're welcome to link the style sheet, but you can also keep it simple if you'd like. So we're going to start getting the image to work correctly. So we're going to add the rule image max width of 100%. Okay, and then we're going to add a card class and make the width of our card 320 pixels. So if you guys remember how to add the card class, classes are always with a dot. And then we are going to do the width, so we use the width attribute, and we're doing 320 pixels. Okay. So it says you should also notice that the card has a white background, a slight shadow, and rounded corners. Rounded corners can be accomplished with the border radius property. And so there's a link to read more about border radius, so go ahead and pause this and read more about it. And then it can take one of 4 values, so we're talking about border radius. If If it only takes one, then it will apply to all of the corners. So basically, well, I'll just show you guys. So border radius, let's refresh real fast so we can see. Now it's only taking the 320 pixels, and the image is taking up the full width. So I'm going to open up my element inspector over here. And I'm just going to show you how border radius works. We're not going to apply it the way I'm about to show you, but it's still good to know. Okay, so I have selected our image. And again, I hope you read the article that is linked, but you just use the border radius property, and then like it's saying, if we do just like 4 pixels, you can see all of the edges here have been rounded. Now if I do something else, like let's say do 4 pixels, 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 0 pixels, then you can see it's going around this way, and we have a 4 pixel border radius here, and then 0, 0, 0. So you can customize that. Typically you'll want to do all the same, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you might only want rounded corners at the top, or there's also some really cool things that you can do with border radius. So if you guys end up taking the advanced CSS class at byu-i, you'll learn a lot more about border radius. You can do some really cool things with it. But moving on, now we're also talking about, there's also a shadow under the card, and we can use the box shadow property. So again, there's an article to that, so go ahead and pause this video so that you can read that and just learn more about it. So they do give us some settings, so we'll copy that and paste it in here. You guys, I really encourage you guys to write these out so that you are able to learn the content. So we're adding the width that we already added, this box shadow, the border radius of 3 pixels. So you just saw I had given the image a border radius of 4 pixels. So we're doing a slightly less border radius, and then a background color of white. And then box shadow, I always think it's kind of tricky to calculate box shadow. I don't like doing it. So I think I've shared this with you guys before, but I like to use this tool and play with it until I get the right look, and then just copy and paste the code. So that's my trick, but since they gave it to us, we're going to use what they gave us. And then now that is end of step 2, so let's just take a look and see how our media card is looking. Okay, well, it doesn't really look like it took effect, so that's kind of funny. We have our article with the class of card, and we're targeting card right here. But I don't see the border radius. Did I refresh? I don't think I refreshed. No, I don't think I saved my file. Save. Alright. There we go. So yeah, see, there's the border radius. That's a little, or the box shadow and the border radius. The box shadow is a little harsher than I usually like. I like a softer box shadow look, but we'll keep it. We'll deal with it. Okay, step 3, finishing up. For the rest of the styling and the following details will be helpful. So you'll want to set your font to a nice sans serif font. So guys, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this with you. The rest is on your own, but we've given you a really nice start. So you need a sans serif font. Arial or Helvetica will work great, so I even gave you fonts that you can use. If you give the border radius 4 values, it starts with the top left corner and goes clockwise. We talked about that. So 3 pixels, 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 3 pixels would curve the top left and the bottom left corner, for example. For the gray colors, the hex code 888 is a nice medium gray, and CCC is a nice light gray. So keep that in mind because we have lots of grays here. And then let's see what else. what else are we keeping in mind? Remember that the space between two elements is controlled by margin. Okay, so considering, centering things, you can control that space with margin. You could push these apart with margin. And then padding is between the border of the elements or in the middle. Guys, I'm just going to read it. Okay. The space between the contents of an element and the border of the elements is controlled by padding. So the inside part. And I'll show you that real fast. I'm sure at this point in the semester you guys know, but okay, so like the paragraph, for example, you can see that there's a 16 margin on here that's keeping it separate from these elements, but we could also put a padding of 16 pixels, and then so here's the margin, and then here's the padding. So you can see that the padding is inside of the element and the margin is outside of it. If we added a border, it's just visualized for you. So the border, and then you can see the padding inside of the element, and the margin is on the outside of the border on the outside of the element. Okay. As you work on rounding the corners of the card, if you have issues with the top corners, it's probably the corners of the image covering up the rounded corners of the box. So you can use the overflow property to fix this. Adding overflow hidden to the card will make any content that falls outside of that element be hidden, like the square corners of your image. And there's also a link, that overflow property, there's a link there so you can read more about it. And then lastly, you're going to upload it to iLearn. So by the end, it should look like this. So I'm actually going to finish this up real fast and show you what it looks like and what I'm expecting to see. Okay, so I have finished up the card, and you can see I kind of lightened up the shadow just because that's my personal preference. And then I also added some other things. So I want to tell you exactly what I'm looking for when I'm grading, because if you look at the grading material, it just says media card created looks just like the provided mockup. So here's what that means. It means that there is an image at the top that takes up the full width. Okay, just like here, we have that full width thumbnail. We'll also notice that all of the corners are curved. All of the corners are curved. Okay. There's a slight shadow on it. Just like on here, there's a slight shadow, so I'm looking for that. We also notice that there is a consistent border around the edge. So here we can see that consistent border. We have the paragraph text. So again, here's that paragraph text. The buttons are something specific that I'm looking for. So you can see that on the edges here, they are curved, and they're curved over here too. But between them, it's a straight flat line. And then also, they have the gray text, the thin border, and then their white buttons. And if you want to have fun with it, you can add some hover effects too. You can have some fun with it, but it does need to look like the mock-up. And then lastly here is this text here is a lighter gray, and it's smaller than the paragraph text. So let's take a look at that again. Here you can see that this is smaller text than the paragraph text, and it's a lighter color. So, and then also just one last thing, just like it said in the font, or in the, not in the fonts, in the hints, that we're looking for a nice sans serif font. So all this text is sans serif, the buttons are sans serif, and so you can see that applied here. So generally, that is what I'm looking to see on this assignment. And with that, good luck, and I'm excited to see your media cards.